What's Gucci, everyone? John Broadway here, coming to y'all live and direct from my studio here in LA, aka my room. Nothing special. But what I'm about to speak to you all is something I feel is special, which is the 5 life lessons that I've gleaned from storytelling. Stories are humans' creative canvas to display all of the complexities of life, and the in glorious fashion, right? The good times interspersed with the bad feelings and the ugly contradictions that we all exhibit as humans. Don't allow the over-the-top dramatized nature of Hollywood to rob you from this understanding. Sure, on the surface, a crippled man infusing his psyche with a 10-foot tall blue alien exoskeleton that allows him to infiltrate that alien culture that is living on a well of a mystical ore. All of that sounds far removed from reality. But dig deeper. You'll see that this story, Avatar, is nothing more than a futuristic reimagining of the imperialist genocide that took place throughout Earth's history. Another example, a few people can say they've experienced the wild misadventures of the three men in horror bosses. But the driving force of that story, the desire to exact revenge on a authority figure, exists in all of us to a certain degree. Our life is a story with snippets of it captured on cameras. Movies are snippets of life captured on camera. The inextricable nature of life and story means that, for those who seek it, there are boundless life lessons. And these are just some of the life lessons that I've gotten from it. Number one, the power of perspective. We're all the heroes of our own story, but the villain of someone else's. What that truism speaks to is perspective. With it comes with understanding this provides when it comes to providing understanding, particularly with those who are in stark contrast with ourselves, is there a more powerful tool in store? I doubt it. And this is something that is really important as we're all starting to engage in these discussions about racial justice, right? It's a big topic right now, and it's very important. And so, keeping this the power perspective as well as the other life lessons in mind as we engage in this topic is very, very relevant. Every storyteller eventually learns that the best bad guys, villains, have good redeemable traits, and they wholeheartedly believe what they're doing is right, fair, and justified. And this idea first crystallized to me a few years ago when a friend explained to me that she became so withdrawn as an adult after her mom read her diary when she was a child. And prior to screenwriting, that would have been like an open and shut black and white case, right? Obviously, her mom was a villain, sure, but screenwriting grew me to dig deeper than mere good versus bad. Screenwriting taught me to explore motivations and desires and goals and backstory, with all of these coalescing to form perspective. And placing my self in the shoes of her mother, a genuinely concerned, loving, and curious mother, she no longer seems so villainous, and that's the power of perspective. With this, we have an enhanced ability to understand, forgive, reconcile, be diplomatic, and ultimately live in a more harmonious state with those who different than us. How to. So the next life lesson I learned is how to identify our voice. Every screenwriting or student at some point is told, you're not Tarantino, so don't try to be because you'll fail. And what the sage advice alludes to is the necessity of finding our own individual voice, in a world that's teeming with demonstrably loud ones, right? And I get it, right? Find yourself, figure out who you are, find your voice. What the hell does that even mean? I know there's a teenager out there thinking this, because I was that teenager at one point. One of my high school teachers, Sarah Morton, by the way. Hey, Sarah, if you're watching this, appreciate all your great advice. I asked her, this question, what does it mean to know yourself, right? I didn't understand at the time. And she kind of just shrugged and was like, it's one of those things you have to find out for yourself. And, of course, that just sounds so cliche, until you do it. Theoretically, she was right. But figuratively speaking, she was wrong. Because on this voyage of self-discovery, I was the captain, accompanied by my first mate, the art of storytelling. And, it was the screenwriting gurus and teachers who were waving me on from, or cheering me on from the docks as, we sailed away on this voyage of self-discovery. And, here is what, my voyage revealed to me about my voice. An absolute affinity for struggle, particularly appreciative of its positive effects. I have an infatuation for vulnerability. I have a fondness for flipping the script, and an idolatry of ill-fated, inspirational, yet morally complex characters. And clearly an annoying affection for alliteration, am I right? As a screenwriter, it's literally impossible not to learn about yourself when you search for unique stories to tell that will allow you to stand next to a man like Tarantino. For years, the answer to what is my voice ducked and dodged me, and screenwriting helped me pin it down. It forced me to look at the influences in my life that have helped me form the unique perspective that I have, and thereby I can confidently stand out in a world crowded with billions of amazing people who are also seeking to stand out. So if you haven't come to an understanding of who you are, a foray into storytelling, or like screenwriting or whatever, right, could help reveal it to you. And so, number 3, the beauty of conflict. No story exists without conflict, and this is obviously like life as well too. When I began to understand my life as a story, I began to understand conflict as an inextricable aspect of that serves to enrich it, just like stories. Sure, we'd all like for things to fall into place for us perfectly all the time, but just as that doesn't make a story, neither does that make a life. For this reason, I laugh in the face of conflict and struggle. Well, maybe not always initially. Sometimes, it makes you want to scream, and sometimes I want to punch stuff, and sometimes I actually do. But nevertheless, it's always my understanding of the necessity of conflict that brings me to an eventual appreciation for it, and it helps me look at my life and appreciate how its ugliness is the same thing that can make it beautiful, a la yin and yang. Screenwriting is what finally helped me understand the yin and yang nature of life. We only see something because its opposite exists. The moment that we can see conflict as an enriching, clarifying force in our life, something that we need to continually learn and grow from, just like main characters do in stories, then our ability to deal with conflict and struggle magnifies. And so this is particularly important for me because, this appreciation for conflict and struggle, right, is what helps me appreciate being a black man in America, right? Because there's an inherent struggle and conflict that comes with that. But having an appreciation of conflict helps me appreciate my underdog status. So that's important to remember. And the next lesson I learned from screenwriting is understanding human subtext. And so subtext is probably the most artistic element of storytelling or writing. It's everything being said without actually being said. For example, if you have like a long, drawn-out yelling match between a husband and a wife, say if you're writing a scene, right, where you have a long, drawn-out yelling match, the husband and wife, and you want to show their marriages on the fritz, you could do that. You can write out this whole long argument, or you can just employ subtext and show the husband or the wife taking their ring off as they go to work every day. That singular act shows enough subtext to say everything that a yelling match could. Clothes, car type, job, mannerisms, habits, quirks, all of these say an immense amount about a character or real life person with no words. My continual effort to master the subtext of story has spilled into a mastery of the subtext of life. When I've learned to draw personality and backstory inferences based on people's actions or words or lack thereof, my understanding of other humans jumped to the next level. Sometimes I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a correlation between my increasing screenwriting prowess and my ability to understand humans through subtle features like speech, clothing, and mannerisms. When crafting a character, you start with the foundation of who they are, then you pull disparate pieces of the character together until they form a fully realized, unique version of that foundation. Understanding humans is simply reverse engineering this. Take note of the disparate pieces of this person and trace them back to the foundation of who they are. And so, this has helped me have a fascination with humans, and it's also helped me understand people as I engage with them in these topics of racial justice, right? And figure out, why they may have the certain views that they do, and figure out how to address that in a more effective manner. Lastly, last lesson I learned is that storytelling is teaching. Point blank, storytelling is one of the most effective teaching tools we have. As soon as you can comprehend it, as soon as we're able to comprehend, it's stories that teach us about the world around us. If you want to teach your kid, for example, why it's important not to lie, are you going to go into explicit detail about every single detriment lying brings forth, or would you read them The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or would you tell them a personal story of you lying and how it caused negative effects? Or would you do any combination of A, B, or C? And if you chose anything other than A, then you need no more convincing to storytelling's powerful way storytelling teaches, right? Understanding the intersection of life and story isn't just important for a screenwriter like myself seeking to replicate life in a creative manner. It's also vital for people to understand the world that we inhabit. Finding the ways in which stories represent life allow us to be smarter and more conscious beings who interact with one another in a more harmonious fashion, which again is very important as we are in this current firestorm over racial relations and talks. So whether it's through a better understanding of ourselves, our perspectives, and our backstory through subtextual nuances, or being more at peace with conflict, stories offer the most effective and entertaining tool for us to understand life. So, thank you all for watching my video. I hope you found the content valuable. If you did, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment and maybe share your thoughts on how these lessons might help you engage with others as you talk about racial relations and racial justice. I'm really interested in hearing what you guys think. So thanks again, and see you next week.